So we're going to continue on from where we left off in the last video, and there's this little change I need to make here. So this is what we did in our last video. So let's just go back to our index.html because there's this change I want to make here. So I want to actually follow the working tree. As you can see here, we have a h1 tag, and after a h1 tag we have our class of large. Okay, so I want to follow the working tree because it's a good practice. So if we go back to our styles.css now, you can see we only specify the class of large. So I want you to have to specify the h1, and after the h1 then your large. Okay, so after the h1 and then we specify our class. So this is just a good practice, okay, to follow. Okay, so if we refresh this, you see that nothing will happen. I just wanted to follow the working tree because that's actually a good practice to use when making your project. So we are going to be creating our input box. So let's just get started quickly. So under our heading 2, the first heading 2 of username, we're going to create our input. So the input type, we are going to use a type of text. As you can see, there are lots of type, but we are going to be using a type of text. Input type of text, and then we are going to say we're going to use a placeholder of username, of course. Placeholder of username. I'm going to explain what a placeholder is, don't worry. And we are going to give a class because we might be styling this in the future. So we are going to give it a class of input box for a class, and then we are going to be styling the next input box of which is the password. So let's copy this one. We'll copy this and then we'll paste it under the password. And then what we need to do now, we need to change the placeholder. We need to change the placeholder to password, and the class will remain the same. The class will remain the same of input box, and we are still going to be leaving the type to text. Okay, so if you refresh this on our web page now, refresh, you can see we have our username and password, and you can see we have our two input boxes of username and password. Now if you are wondering what a placeholder is, you can see the text, this little text inside of the box. That is what the placeholder is. That is the placeholder. You can see the text inside of the box, username, and the text inside of this one of password. So that is the placeholder. If maybe you are wondering what a placeholder is, so that is placeholder. So as you can see, this box, they are small, and we want to make them a little bit outstanding. As you can see, they are too small for now, so we want to make them a little bit big. So we are going to be styling this box inside of our styles.css. So let's go over to our styles.css, and we are going to style this under of our h1 tag inside of our custom styles. So we'll say input. We are going to, I know we have not done this before, this is what we are going to be using. We are going to be using these brackets, okay? So what we are going to say, we'll say input type, and then we'll use your equal sign, then we'll say text. Oh, sorry, double quote, and then you put text inside. Now what this is simply saying is, you're simply telling the browser that any input type, any input that have the type of text, I want you to apply these styles to it. Okay, any inputs that have a type of text. As you can see, there are lots of type. There are lots of type like password, username, number, email, but we are using a type of text. So we are simply telling the browser that any inputs that have the type of text, I want you to apply these following styles to it. So we are going to give it a font size, a font hyphen size. I'm going to give it a font size of 20 pixels. 20 pixels. And then we are also going to give it a width. As you can see, it's too short. So we are going to give it a width of a 400 pixels. Width of 400 pixels. And let's go over to our web page and refresh and see how this looks. Refresh. You can see now our the input boxes, they are now a little bit outstanding. They are now bigger. So we are going to give this a padding. because as you can see, the username is too close to the edge of our browser over here. So we're going to give it a little padding, just a little padding of 5 pixels. So let's just use a padding, give it a padding of 5 pixels. 5 pixels is okay. A padding of 5 pixels. Let's refresh and see how this looks. Refresh now. This is now okay. We have a padding of 5 pixels, a font size of 20 pixels, and you can see the font. If we type something in here, you can see this is the font size of 20 pixels. So that is that. You can type anything in here, the password and username. Okay, so that is it. What the next thing we are going to be styling here, let's go back to our web page. As you can see, this text, the username text, is we need to change the color, of course. Yeah, we need to change the color. So let's go to our styles.css. So the h2, and that is the h2. So after the h1, we are going to get the h2. So we'll say form, and then we'll call our h2, because the reason we are specifying the form, as you can see, we go back to our index.html, we have a form tag, and after a form, so we are simply telling the browser any h2 element inside of a form, I want you to apply the following styles. As you can see, we have a form, and then we have a h2 element. So that's why we are saying any form, any h2 element inside of a form, we want you to apply the following styles to it. So we are just going to give it a color, because we want the color to be the same. So we are going to give it a color of purple. So if we refresh this now, refresh, now we also have a purple color, just like our heading. Okay, so I think that is it for here. Yeah, what we need to do now is we need to shift this column. You know, this is taking the width of a 50% of the screen, so we need to shift this a little bit from the left hand side. So to do this, let's go back to our index.html. To do this now, you know, we are going to be having 2 columns inside of this row. Inside of this first row, we are going to be having 2 columns. So for this first column, I can actually go over to our style.css and say column 6, class of column 6, and then give the stars. But if I do that, I'm going to have all the column 6 inside of my web page get that certain effect, but I don't want that. I just want to style only this section. I only want to style this section alone. So that's why I'm going to give this particular column 6 a class. Okay, I'm just going to give it a class of left side. Sorry, this is supposed to be inside of the quotes. Okay, this is supposed to be inside of the quotes. So I'm going to say left side hyphen col. So this is just like left side column. So this is the class. You can actually create classes like this. Okay, you can create a class like this, and you can create this class now like this, and you can also create another class like this. Sorry, I made a mistake here. I need to put this back. I need to put the 6 back here. So we now have 2 classes in this section. As you can see, you can actually create 2 classes. So we have a class of column 6, and we also have a class of left side col. Okay, so now let's go over to our web page and style this section. So just go back to our web page now, and where are we going to put these styles? Inside of our custom styles, of course, we are going to put it in here, and then it will be after our background, because after our background is after the background is when we have our div. So we are going to say period left side column, and then we are just going to give this a margin. Since we want to shift it from the left hand side, we are going to give it a margin left. Give it a margin left of what are we going to give this? A margin left of 30%. I think 30% is okay. Remember, we are using percentage, so give it a margin left of 30%. So if I refresh this, now you can see it has shifted this evenly. It's okay. So In the next video, we are going to actually add the next section over here. Okay, so don't worry about this. Now we are going to be adding the next section over here to make it look evenly. Okay, so that is it for this video. We're going to be continuing on with the next. In the next column we are going to be adding here, so we are going to continue on in the next video. So that will be it for this video, guys. I will see you guys in the next lecture.